Good evening, everyone. Warm welcome to all of you on the fifth and last day of our Entrepreneurial Week. The Committee for Members in Entrepreneurship and Public Service, under the leadership of Chairman C. Hansraj Chugh and Vice Chairman C. Dheeraj Khandelwal had planned this week, and with your support, with your active participation, with you being present here every day, we had a very successful week, and we have two sessions to go today, wherein we believe that this entire program will be making a big difference in yourself. We are overwhelmed with the warm comments you have shared with us, with the comments you have directly shared with the speakers. We always hope that your journey of entrepreneurship and whatever endeavors we are into, that is always there for always, it's always helps us to make our life successful, overcome problems, overcome challenges, and bring in solutions wherever required. So today we have two sessions, and our first esteemed speaker, Sri Rajneesh Kumar Singh. He is from Melbourne, and it's so late at night. It's about to turn midnight very soon for him, but he is here for us, and sincere gratitude to him before I introduce him. And let me give a short brief on Rajneesh. Rajneesh is our member and also a member of Chartered Accountants of Australia and New Zealand. He is a founding member of our Melbourne chapter. Rajneesh started his career working for leading power utility company NTPC in India. In Australia, it wasn't a smooth ride for him in the beginning, which helped him to go on a rewarding personal growth and entrepreneurial journey. Since then, he has been part of the major private and public listed companies currently associated with ASX, the listed pharmaceutical wholesaler. Apart from that, he has majority stake in a hospitality business and a consulting business. His quest for self-development still continues, where he organizes a monthly leadership meetup program in Melbourne, which he is doing since last 11 years, and which has a member base of over 5,000 people. So thank you, Rajneesh, for your support to the Institute, to its activities, you being founder member of a Melbourne chapter. And Melbourne chapter has been making so much difference to around 200 of our members who are part of the chapter, and also to many other who may not be part of it and other accounting bodies in the country. Your contribution, we appreciate wholeheartedly. And your contribution, which will happen today in terms of your session, will be making difference to thousands who will be watching right now. So with this, I request all who are here and watching this session to please give a big virtual round of applause for our first speaker, Rajneesh. And Rajneesh, the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prabdeep. And sincere thanks to you as well. And also Harsa is the chairman of Melbourne chapter who spoke to me about this. But I wanted to welcome everybody on the call, and also wanted to thank, in fact, the alma mater Chartered Accountants in India, with our chairman, our vice chairman, and all the committee members and the regional members for enlightening all the members, because I remember in 1998 when I graduated from the institute, I mean, we are far ahead. I won't say that time was good or bad. I mean, everything was good every time. But now we are in the journey where the institute is doing a lot, which is great to see. So I wanted to thank the institute for that as well. So from my point of view, what I will do is maybe from the slides, I've got a few slides which I will share, and that's when I will start to go and maybe introduce, like you already introduced myself, but a little bit on that slide about me as well, and also about the Melbourne chapter. This is good for people to know about that too. So why don't I share that, and that way it would be easier for people to have a visual presentation. So let me know if you can see the screen when it comes up.
Yes, we can see Rashish. It's fine. Perfect.
Yeah. So that's yes, that's the topic which which was something was in discussion, and I thought that was a good topic to talk to people about future growth opportunities for entrepreneurs. Now, when I'll go to my introduction, I'll talk about the entrepreneurship, which I went on that journey as well, and also the areas which I look for. But the disclaimer, like always, we in chartered accountancy, we always go with disclaimer. The disclaimer which I wanted to put on in advance, the experiences which I will share is purely mine, and it does not represent either the institute or the chapter. Also, the experiences which I will share is from my own personal experiences. This is not, I'm not going to share a crystal ball where people would know what are the future areas of growth. This is something which I perceive and something which I'll share what are the areas I like to go into as well. So that I just wanted to put in up front. So what do we have in that time which I have? So what I will be discussing is, I mean, we did the first part where thanking, welcome, and I will go and do a little bit of introduction as well. Then I will just check in with the room now. It's a virtual meetup. People to just if they want to kind of raise their virtual hand, tell them about themselves, or maybe that's a check-in. I will have 3 or 4 questions. And then the third part is where I've got the body of the presentation, where I've got 10 quick slides, which talks about why entrepreneurship and what are the growth areas. So I will have some context and then some content in that as well. And then the fourth thing is questions, ideas from people, and then wrap up. So that's how the whole thing will go. So I'll just start with the Melbourne chapter so that people get a sense of it as well. And also we pride ourselves being away from the institute, but we still have those institute values here in Melbourne, right here. So we every month we remember the institute because we do CPD meetings, we do cultural programs. And so you will see one of the photos you see at the bottom is where the Consulate General of India, he came when we celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav in Melbourne. And then a lot of the participation from the members, their families was there as well. And then we've got, I mean, Melbourne chapter, if you think about it, it's an Australian chapter. It's the first chapter in Australia to be established in 2006. And we have 200 plus CA families part of it. Why is Melbourne famous? I just put that in because sometimes you would see that Melbourne has been one of the bigger cities in the world, which was closed, like I mean, shut down for COVID for so long. We always had lockdowns, so that's why Melbourne was famous. But we always did our CPD programs, even if there was lockdown, using the virtual technology. And how we work here. So our CPDs are in person as well as virtual. Our family and cultural events are in person, which when the time permits, we do it. We do a couple of times in the year. And then for more details, it'd be good to go to Melbourne website and have a look. There's so many good photos and galleries and events, which talks about all that. So that'd be a good place to just go and have a look at icai.melbourne. Just on my own introduction, which you kindly gave, Prabdeep, I just wanted to put in a couple of things. Which, if you look at the photo on the top, that was me. Probably the suit and the shoes was not as good as you can see in the photo, but that was me when I could not get a job during the campus placement, which happened in 1998. So 1998 was, so I passed out in November 97 batch. So in 1998, February, that was the first time Institute did some campus placement. So a lot of companies came in, and because I finished my CA in the first attempt, I wasn't the sharpest, but I was the hardworking one. So I finished my CA in my first attempt. And then after 3 days of campus recruitment, I was still unemployed. And at that time, I was like that. I was that frustrated that after being CEO, so you have to kind of Not knowing though that my communication skill wasn't there. I would sit in a group discussion, and by the time I opened the mouth, the group discussion was done. So that's how my self-image and my confidence level was at that time. And I chose that I will make that as my strength. When in 1998, I could not secure a job through campus. But what, you always hear this, and Napoleon Hill is one of the author in 1930s. He wrote this, which says, every adversity has the seed of opportunity in them. So it's good that that happened, because of that, then I kind of started working for a government company, like what you call public sector company in India. Some of you must have heard about NTPC, National Thermal Power Corporation. So I worked there for around about 7 to 8 years. And then in 2006, I took a decision to migrate permanently to Australia because my brother was already here, my own brother. So I just joined him. And then coming here, my quest for self-development kept on continuing. So I started an entrepreneurial mastermind and a leadership meetup group. And the bottom one, which you see, that's what I do in Melbourne with mastermind other entrepreneurs in different fields, and we just learn from each other as well. So that's the introduction. If anybody wants to connect, so from career point of view, when I came in, it was harder to find work for first couple of months, 3 months. Then I found a job in a smaller company, and that was doing Bluetooth car kit installations in people's car. So I actually was their accountant. There was a very small company coming from a very large company like NTPC. That was very, very small for me, but I still worked there because that was my first job and I loved and enjoyed. That was a year and a half. Then I started to feel a little bit, that was just too small for me to work there. So I got somebody else in my role and I moved on, went to do somewhere else. And then I stayed on for a few months and the company closed. And that was the first time I learned that in developed and Western world, companies can wrap up anytime, like even large companies. And that gave me a jolt. And then from there on, the company which bought the company which I was working in, they took me in, and I actually stayed there for 10 years because that's when I learned a lot. And I was mainly into accounting. Then I went into the DC side of things, and then went into financial management. And then from that on, I started to think that I have been into traditional accounting role for too long. And my interest was more into business and entrepreneurship, which I was always doing on the side. But this time I decided that I would jump ship and wouldn't be in traditional accounting. So I went more into business partnering because the skill which I had was more suited to advise the business unit heads from the finance acumen point of view, or doing business cases for them. So I then jumped ship and went into commercial, into a pharmaceutical company, which is Symbian, but that is being owned by a ASX listed company called EBOS. And there, my main, I work there, but I work on my own terms. How do I help them like an intrapreneur? But again, there are a lot of other businesses which I do alongside, and that's an understanding which I have as well, so that I can still pursue my entrepreneurial journey. Because so passion-wise, and that's what actually I'll read that quote later on. Passion-wise, I have. That's not my passion, but I make money through traditional businesses. I've got a hospitality business, I've got an online business, and I'm trying to set up some businesses which I will discuss as in the growth areas. And so if anybody wants to connect, you've got, like, from career point of view, if you want to connect on LinkedIn, or from my passions and hobbies, which is running. So I did a couple of half marathon. I'm preparing for a marathon right now. And so if you wanted to connect me on my Instagram, you can do that as well. And what this quote says, the very, really important quote, which we will use later on, is what Charles Darwin said. He said, "Excepting fools, men did not differ much in intellect, only in zeal and hard work." And I think this is an eminently important difference. So, when I look at my life journey, I wasn't the sharpest at all. I mean, it was so hard to pass the exam. And I just think, to date, if somebody asked me what's the hardest thing you've done, and I said I passed the final exams, both the papers in one go, I think I haven't done anything harder than that. But it says that the intellect between people could be up and down, but what makes you go further is your zeal and your hard work. And I think I still believe that if somebody doesn't have zeal and hard work, then entrepreneurship would be harder for them. So just to check in the room, I am not sure. I mean, how many people here are entrepreneurs already? So they run their own businesses. Also, who are aspiring entrepreneurs? They are not yet, but their thinking is entrepreneurship was in the horizon. They wanted to go there. They wanted to be an entrepreneur. And then the third category is the people who are there, but they are more academics. They wanted to learn and teach others about entrepreneurship. So at some point in time, when we have some interaction, Pravdeep, we would get this feel from the room. I'm not sure how many, can vote on that, but that's my idea to understand how many of them are like that. But typically, it'd be a mix, isn't it?
Yes, it would be a mix, and as far as I understand from the experiences in the last 4 or 5 days, the weightage to those who are in employment is more actually, because because everyone who may be in employment, we have developed this program to help those who are in employment to become an entrepreneur. So therefore, those members who are in industry or in practice are more than who are purely into the different kinds of other businesses. Yeah. Okay.
Thanks for that. And I can tell you something. I looked at the program outline, the one which you sent, and the speakers and the quality of topics they had. That was very enriching. Actually, heard the topic last night with both the speakers speaking, and it was really good. So yeah, I actually congratulate them as well. It was really good topics. So I'll keep going on. So this is where I start to talk on the entrepreneurship, and just maybe note down if anybody has any question on that or something. We would get to the end. So I will just dive in, and if it was one-on-one, I would ask this question: why entrepreneurship? Because I mean, life is much better doing the job for somebody else. Why to take the headache and go back home? I mean, entrepreneurs sometimes does not even go on time. So why entrepreneurship? That's one. And then I have 3 or 4 kind of joggers. I mean, it will let you think about things which, I mean, when we think about entrepreneurship, let's say if somebody is looking for growth opportunities in entrepreneurship, for entrepreneurs, I would say, what's the vision? And the vision, I mean, one is vision for yourself, but also vision here is, how do you see, are you looking at local? Are you looking at global? Because if you are looking at a local businesses are something where, you start your own practice or you start a small business and you keep it local. You just serve the local market. You're happy with that, serves your lifestyle, suits your family, and you're good with that. So that is one. Or are you looking at global as something which can be scaled back, something which can be prototyped and taken to the world? So what are you looking at? Local or global or glocal? Glocal is a global becomes local, which is, let's say, Uber or Uber Eats. So the business is global, but then the presence they have in each market. And that's why, or Airbnb, and there's so many other examples. I couldn't at that time think to write more, but there's definitely more space to write on local businesses. Also, are you thinking about service related product, or are you looking at a product? So products make your business scalable. I can, if you create a product and the product can move from hand to hand. So once you create a product, people can buy it. Service is being served, like service is being offered on one-on-one basis sometimes, and that's when we will talk about the scalability. Then that's when the decision on service or product. Service can be packaged as product as well, but if we haven't packaged something as product, then the scalability could be a challenge. So that is one of the things to think about: vision, global or local. And the other thing is to taking a decision. I mean, when an entrepreneur looks for different growth areas or different areas to dive into or go into entrepreneurship, if you're an aspiring entrepreneur, are you passion driven or are you profit oriented? I mean, that is one of the things which, if you people who are passion driven, they work much. I mean, if you like doing something, you do it longer without having the fatigue or feeling that you're doing much harder. But at the same time, not all the passion driven businesses are very successful. I mean, there are some, and of course, people build massive empires based on their passion, what they wanted to do it. But that's something which so are you going to work on your passion? Because passion is something which is really true to your close to your heart, and you enjoy it more. You just got to see, how do I make it sustainable so that I can sustain it for longer? Or you're profit driven, where you're going to create an organization which gives you return year on year growth. So that's something which you decide in advance as well. The other thing would be process. So we talked about vision, local, global. We talked about decision, whether you want to do passion or profit, or you are looking at the process. Do you want a business which is self-managed or self-employed? Which, I mean, by definition, self-employed is the business. If that person is not there, the business does not kind of stay that long, because the magic is the person who is running the business. That's self-managed or self-employed business. Or you're looking at a business which can be scaled, which can be can go beyond you. So you're the one, and then it goes to somebody else, and that goes some other places or different market, and then goes in different market, and suddenly starts to scale. And those businesses which scale are system driven businesses, technology driven businesses. So these are the businesses which scale. So you just got to think, what kind of process do I have? Am I going to manage and be the process myself, do everything? Or do I create systems and processes where if I take myself out, the organization still functions? And if that happens, then you can scale it. Then it can become bigger. And that's where global organizations they look at. So, but you will look at these things at the foundation level, because if you don't, then it becomes much harder to do it at a later stage. The fourth thing is funding. I mean, do you want a low budget, build as you go business, or you want a capital intensive business? Build as you go businesses, like the one which is like a low budget businesses, where entrepreneurs fund it from their own pocket, or they get families to help them with some funding, where they can, kind of start to put some sample products, or start to have their own business. They buy some equipments and things like that, or till they find some client and customers. If they have any freelancer working with them, the money which they get from their families and relatives, or their own money, helps them start. And then they start to get some money from their customers, and that starts to build the organization bigger and bigger. Capital intensive project, though, are something where you got to have initial funding from a funding agency. So you got to do a lot more work beforehand. Some startups are very build as you go kind of, but some startups, particularly startups which are supported by large companies, they are more capital intensive. They put money up front, and they build bigger as they go. So you just got to see what suits you. Do you have the kind of product which has got a backing from a corporate, or you're going to build everything by yourself? And why I say that is so that it opens up and creates the horizon and a context in which we would discuss a few things further. Now, this is who heard who. I mean, if it was if I could see you, all of you, I could ask this question: who has heard about OpenAI or Chat GPT? If you haven't heard about it, this is one of the billion-dollar enterprise. I think it's valued more than 20 billion already. And the first time I heard about it is only a few months ago, and still not heard in many places. So OpenAI is a AI artificial intelligence company, and Microsoft invested a billion dollar, like committed $1 billion at that time, and now they own 49% of it by paying extra money to them. So, so as an entrepreneur, when I look at it, I just say it's been hard to catch up. By the time I ponder over my $1 million idea, I'm amazed how someone can build a multi-billion-dollar enterprise in the same time. Like I'm still thinking about my $1 million idea, and then there's popping up $1 billion business in the same time. So the world is moving really fast, and we just got to, if we have an idea, it's the time to kind of work on that and get some traction around it, get some people who believe in you, to check with. So that's what I just thought I'll put that in. And yeah, just please go ahead and check OpenAI. And Chat GPT. Maybe ask something. People ask Chat GPT, hey, Chat GPT, once you are here, is Google going to go away? And it says, no, I'm not in competition with Google. You go and ask them, hey, I'm actually on a protein diet, high protein, low carb diet. What should I have for dinner to tell you? So that's how the artificial intelligence work nowadays. So talking about the key opportunities. Now, how I see this is again a context in which how I see we can make a difference. Because look, one of the things which I see is there's nothing new in this world. It's everything which has been done is by assembling few things which was already present, assembling in a different manner, working in a different manner, tweaking, changing, making it better. And that's what it is. It's the opportunities are in process efficiency. So if the process already there, in a manufacturing company, in a supply chain, anywhere, if you look at a process and you see how do I make it more efficient, and if you are an enterprise which can help them do that, even if you do a part of it, you have a business, you have a sustainable, successful business. So process efficiency is one. Then time to market. Everybody wants to, they have a timeline to go to the market, but some people do it quicker. Some people do it to suit the market. Some people go to the customer themselves. And that's the difference. So when you create a difference, you added value, and that's where there is a business. So when you look at entrepreneurship, or when you could look at even the areas in which you work yourself and see, is there anything which I do can help my client from time to market point of view or from process efficiency point of view? And that's when there will be an opportunity which pops up for you. And then the support and impact, and these two are very close to my heart. Support is always, there are areas where the business are already going, larger businesses, smaller businesses, but you could be just pitching yourself as a support. You just take part in that process and build your own business doing that. And that could be, let's say, if there is a large manufacturing company and they are doing few things, and then you just said, okay, well, I will solve one part of the problem. Probably I will just go and help them out with their issues in accounts payable. I'll just go help them out with their, the waste collection areas, or I would go help them out in any other process efficiency or time to market. The support is that support is also in key areas like healthcare or education. These areas need a lot of supporting activities which people, you and I, can do and really help out. And that's why you sort of a bigger heart to go and do that. At the same time, you make money as well. So that is like in COVID times, a lot of businesses came in doing different parts which people needed at that time. And then impact. Impact is something which is by you doing something, creating an impact. And that could be something which you do for the environment, that could be something you do socially for community. And that is something, again, is very, very valuable. If people do things for impact, you make money, at the same time you're making an impact. So that was something which I thought I will discuss. Now, the specific areas which I see as growth areas And correct me if I'm wrong when I go later on. I mean, correct me, add some more to it. I mean, not correcting, because everybody knows health and education and technology, these areas are quite big. But if you had anything else, add on to that. If you have any question, please feel free to ask me. The health. So the area which I see big, and where somebody can jump in now. Sorry, I'm actually talking to a group of entrepreneurs, but I'm talking about entrepreneurship in general, because look, I'm a finance and accounting guy, but I always see businesses as businesses. It doesn't matter whether I work and do some financial services or go and sell product. Businesses are businesses, and my interest has always been in health and education, because that's where I'm actually working on. I'm already, one part of the work has been done, and I'm dealing with that. So that's why I see that as a big areas in health, in education. Technology is bigger again. Now technology can be leveraged in your own existing enterprise. Like a lot of accountants did this, a few years ago. They went on cloud, and they just totally got them free of all those servers and all those, management of those servers and things like that. They're on cloud. They can manage their business from anywhere. It became much easier for their client to access the data. So that's how technology can help any business. And then there are so many new things coming up in technology as well. So that would be one area to look at and see how can I do that in my own business. Whether that would be just putting a chatbot, which when you are not active, somebody goes on your website, the chatbot can answer a few questions for you. So those are the things to look at. But also technology per se is where you could create technology, or you could create a solution for businesses. Like I see, there are so many things which an accountant does. Let's say lease. Well, leases are something where I remember failing in one of the exam, because the lease standard was so tough that I could not answer the question properly. And to date, I think that's one area which I have to read a lot. But look, let's say if you build a software just for that. Now, so many companies have already done that, but then there's always good and bad. I mean, there are some companies doing it, but you can do better than that. There are fixed assets. So there are, so many different parts of, the accounting system, which can be done through technology. And so many direct technology businesses which can be built, because you can have a group of technocrats, and it can build a big product as well. So that's technology. And then supply chain and finance, I see that as a really, really big area as well. When I say finance has got finance technology as well, but finance, like direct finance as well. Supply chain is one area which I would say manufacturing, wholesaling, supply chain, all these areas supply chain have been really busy since COVID came in. And it's an area where a lot of money can be made. But again, you got to look after so many things, including your margin, your process efficiency, your go-to market. I mean, so many things you got to look at. But supply chain is an area where there are a lot of opportunities there for an entrepreneur to go and work in. Whether that is transportation, delivery of goods and services through different ways. Look at Uber. They just created a totally different business in last 6-7 years. But then there are so many opportunity within that as well. So supply chain is one key area. Then we look at environment. Environment is something which is coming up, and many bigger large companies now, they started to disclose in their annual report about ESG, so environment, social, and governance aspect of an organization. And they get measured. I mean, larger companies, when they go and invest in a company, they look at their ESG footprint. They say whether this particular company, how do they deal with their ESG initiatives? So that is becoming big. And in that, there are a lot of opportunities for even finance professionals or accounting professionals to look at being compliance, just checking whether the claim which a company makes is correct or not. There are opportunity, like you can be a carbon, like you can calculate and calculate the carbon footprint for a company. Similar thing is carbon audit, because so many companies claim something. You could just become an independent authority, independent firm to do those things. And I can see nowadays, I tell you about something. A lot of large companies, particularly the big fours, are going into this climate change, carbon, and ESG area because they know there's money in that. So that's one of the big areas where accountants can make a huge difference, because the skill which we've got, other professionals, they've got the subjective skill, but we've got a lot of practical skills which we can help them with, and we can do that. So that's an area which I actually dearly like, and I wanted to do a few things in that as well. But that's an area where there's a lot of opportunities lies, and it's an area worth exploring. Um, but before I go there, I just wanted to, from environment point of view, one more thing which I wanted to discuss is the social and governance aspect. So I only talked about environment, but social and governance, which is ESG. So social, again, is a lot of companies look at as the employment which you have is gender balanced or not, how many male female ratio, if you have different type of ratios, in that, do you employ anybody who has got they're physically or mentally challenged? How is your organization dealing with mental health challenges? As you know, mental health is so big nowadays. What are the employee counseling or grievances cell programs? So there's so many things from a human aspect, and those areas. Not directly for maybe accountant, but for other people as well. There are so many areas on that. Then governance is an area where accountants could be a massive help. And governance, again, is like corporate governance. Is the company a proper corporate citizen? Are they doing the right thing by themselves, by their shareholders, but by people, by community? Are they doing something which is going to harm the community? Then you, as a watchdog, can just go after. So these are the things which we can actually, as an independent agency, specialize ourselves and can create a market there. You probably, somebody would already have an accounting practice and they are working on traditional accounting, where you're signing the balance sheet, you've got the financial reports ready and things like that. But what about creating a separate cell which just works on these kind of new initiatives? And then you started to kind of look into the area, started to fund yourself, build knowledge, employ a couple of people who are expert in that area, and start to look for opportunities in that domain as well. So that's an area which I see can be immediately be profitable, but at the same time, you're making an impact as well. So that's an impact thing. Just discussing on my focus areas for social businesses. So right now I have a traditional business, which is mainly in hospitality. So I've got a restaurant, I've got a catering business, which I don't run myself, but I have an investment in them. And there are people who they've got shareholding, they run that, and then I get my share on a monthly basis, and that's how the businesses work. But then that business is for me to have cash flow so that I can do things which I like to do in social enterprise areas. Similar thing with my consulting business, where I'm actually building consulting more on ESG, which I just talked about. But the main focus there is also to create a cash flow and doing some right thing, but having that money to fund things which I like to do from social business point of view. When I say social business, is more a business which the primary motive is not to create profit, but the primary motive is to help and see like you're being a support or you're creating an impact, but at the same time you're making profit. Not to that extent, but you're making money for you to survive there. And that's something which, like a cooperative, like a business, which is, I wouldn't say, so not for profit is totally different. And social business is the business which survives on its own. And I like that social business aspect. So my focus area, if you think about, from health and education point of view. So from health point of view, I look at health into two areas. When I look at my own business plan, I've got primary health and preventive health. And primary health is a real, I mean, so close to my heart. Whenever I, travel around and look at, even, when I travel to my own country and, India, I mean, for me to tell countries, it becomes too hard, because once you take citizenship of a different country, you just can't say my country. But when I go to India as well, I see that even here, when we see primary health, it becomes not that there are the facilities are there, but then the doctors are not that many. And how do you impact that too in developed world? The challenge is there too, but more so, I look at primary health in more into emerging areas in society where the facility is not that much, the system is not that proven, and the compliance is not that high. I mean, nobody looks after it. Nothing happened, sort of. So that is something which I really wanted to kind of go in and start an initiative and an enterprise which does kind of some help and support there. At the same time, I charge for the people who work there. So that's one thing which I've got mind. But what I'm working on to some extent, which is a work in progress, is preventive health. And preventive health is more in a matured market, in a developed market where people are more into. So there are, there are medicines, but there are also, tools, exercises, the supplements which you eat to keep yourself healthy, from health and fitness point of view. And that's a massive market, if in a mature market. And I am into that, and I'm trying to kind of make it bigger as well. And that preventive health is massive. That's a big area for entrepreneurs. Now, for accountants sitting here, they must be thinking, well, should I leave my practice and go and start doing something like that? You don't have to. I'm just trying to talk about what I see. And in that, there are opportunities in preventive health, but then preventive health has got opportunity for every other uh, professionals as well. So that's a massive area. And same thing in case of education. So in education, there are primary education. And when I say primary education, it's like just purely on the ground, the quality of education in the schools, and being there to kind of help kids look at life very differently. So right now, the education which we have is more academic. It's got to have some emotional intelligence in them, so that when the kids grow up, the rate of suicide and all those things happen when the kids grow up. They don't have that support. They don't have that resilience factor nowadays. It's becoming very much a kind of the generation which is always on fingers. They find anything which is much smarter. That's really good. But they got to have that leadership. They got to have that from very young age. They got to have that education which makes them more resilient, and also education which makes them think on for themselves rather than somebody else think for them. So that education is very dear to my heart, and I always try to think of ways I can enter in that market in Australia and in India. But the area where I'm dipping in already and I like is the self-help area, where there are a lot of people who are into self-development. They are into confidence, and so many things they want to do for themselves. And that's when there's a massive market for you and I to go in and educate them, and provide those resources. If somebody wants to learn about finances, finance, accounting, all those things, you are there in that field. If somebody wants to learn about, so that self-help is a massive area where we can use technology, we can use other resources, and of course, tapping into knowledge of other people coming together. That could be an area for making impact, but at the same time, opportunity as well. So this, and I defined there, which you can see primary. How I see, what I see is primary, and what I see is preventive and self help. No, preventive and self help is easier because because the market is mature. People are looking to do those things themselves. So there's already like a host of people, they're looking to look good, feel good, have the fitness level better. So that market is already there. So it's much easier, but there is a competition. But again, I just said there's always competition in everything. You just got to see, how do I make an impact? How do I make things better for others? And so that is a very easy area where self-care or need is evident. Primary is an emerging area where you need to have a little bit harder work and it will take time to prove. But I think the maximum impact we can make is in primary education and primary health. And I'm very much committed into those areas for myself. So that was the ideas on the few of the growth areas I talked about. And of course, I just talked plain entrepreneurship. I didn't speak specifically for accountants. That's my bad, because again, I've been thinking more on these lines. And so any questions and ideas which you will have, we would kind of get to that as well. And if you kind of jot down and let me know, we can discuss about that. So that's there. And then I'll go from presentation point. I'll stop sharing after this. If you wanted to connect again, you have a chance to kind of scan from your phone either the LinkedIn or the Instagram, and you can connect me through that. If there are any questions from after this event as well, maybe in a month's time something pops up, or maybe 2 years time, if you say, hey, I was listening to you and something came to my mind, just stay connected and we can look into those at that time. So yeah, with that, I would stop sharing first, and then we can still be there to speak about the topic.
Yes, thank you so much, Rajneesh. And I have one question from Tejpal. He is in Delhi right now. He asks, what is the future of the profession, then the business he does in the capacity of proprietorship? Like he is into practice as practicing individually. So not directly related to your topic, on the general part, maybe you can share your experience on the changes happening in professional practice field across the world, which you may have experienced, in Australia, and touch on other opportunities which he may like to hear.
Yeah. Look, practice. That's why when I was talking about it, it becomes harder and harder for an individual to start practicing and get a kind of a lion's share of the market, which is being captured by a lot of the big fours and many big larger firms. But again, these big and large firms look for firms which have got niche, like they're expert in certain areas and they've got nowhere to go because they don't have that expertise in house. So they'll go and look for those things. You could be becoming an expert in, let's say, cross-border taxation or transfer pricing, or even business and assurance or anything like that. But I would say it's important to look at putting systems and processes so that you have time to explore new areas of growth. Because the only thing which I learned in my time is if I'm the main person behind the wheel of my business, and if I'm so busy doing everything myself, then I do not have time to think. And if I don't think, nothing new, nothing creative would happen. So that's why I would rather have some system where the things can be done quicker. So going on cloud is one, where a lot of accountants, they get their clients come and see whatever they wanted to see, so they don't have to call you all the time. That saves a little bit of a time. Again, charging the client based on your the hours which you spent on them. So when you start to charge them, for doing the good work you do. Because most of the time I see from my experience is a lot of the smaller firms, they do not charge the customers the service they provide, whereas the same customer goes to a larger firm. I mean, you call them and you get a bill. So you just got to be very meaningful. Like when you provide service, be upfront. Like look at what are your time being spent there, and then charge them. Be profitable. That's what I would say. And but put a system so that you have dedicated think time to grow your business. Whether it is outsourcing work, which you can get from other developed world, because there are a lot of companies I see in Australia, New Zealand, I see in US where they kind of give their work to places like India, which has got a better understanding of these things. The manpower, the quality is much better as well. So a lot of BPOs are there. I'm not sure whether how profitable and how much work is there. So I don't want to kind of become a judge and tell you to do that. But creating a niche and having time for yourself is very important. Those are the two things I wanted to add.
Sorry. Thank you so much, Rajneesh, for throwing light on the question which Tejpal had raised. I would request, we still have 5 to 8 minutes, and our members who would be interested to take the benefit of Rajneesh being here from Melbourne, you can type in your questions. Okay, so we have a request from Piyush regarding the presentation. So, Rajneesh, can you make it available to us if that's okay, and we can share if that's fine?
Yeah,
Or
100%. No problem at all.
okay, fine. So what we will do is that we will take the presentation and which share with the members who have attended. And Rajneesh, coming to this, future of entrepreneurship, I would like to touch upon a couple of points. Wherein, I had read a book which had talked about 12 upcoming industries, as you're also talking that how the things are changing. And some of the things which were talked about was like we are sitting on the systems and with internet being exposed. So cybersecurity was one opportunity, if I remember correctly, and another genetics. That was another, that how the things have been changing so fast that if we want to have a kid, we can tell that how our kid should be, whether he should be Pele or or a magician.
Changing
Yes,
the
those.
reprogramming.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing, the things have significantly changed in terms of business with this COVID. And Australia was locked in for 2 years or more, if I remember. If I think you told me, if I remember correctly. And so a lot of work from home options are available, and it had its own pros and cons, because some of the countries, I believe, wherein it's too expensive to live in, and it was more costly for the organizations to save costs. Now they are more promptly looking into getting their people work from places which keeps the cost low, and that has been affecting, to be very honestly, in the Middle East also. And that is creating more opportunities in our home country in India, and for those who are from other countries like Egypt, it's creating opportunity for them there. But one of the book which was Shift, it was talking about these things almost 10-12 years back. The way the things have accelerated at the time of COVID. But
Yeah.
that book talked about that a doctor sitting in Mumbai, he is doing a surgery for his client in for his patient in USA, with some support maybe from China or some other country. That how this was, and the focus of that book, was that when we have been working from home and we are not meeting people, then how it had been affecting our personality. Because what happens that when we go out, we meet people, we develop ourselves in such a way that we get encouraged with some things, we get discouraged with some things, but our environment changes. And when that changes, that that mostly has a positive impact on our lives. But I think when a person is sitting from home and working, then those kind of a benefits do not come. So the focus of that book was on that. So how is
That
it
a
is in
shift. What was the
Melbourne,
name of
like
the book?
it's
The name of the book was Shift, is it?
it's work from home or work from offices right now. Yeah, the shift.
Okay. Hmm. I mean, look, as in there are so many. If you go, that's why I wanted to keep it broader. As in health itself has got so many
Yeah,
technological advancement, and I see,
yeah,
here in Australia, like you've got the technology driving it so fast as well. So there are things which can be done
right,
nowadays. So there are opportunities in that area, a big area. Health is getting a lot of advantage through the technology, and again genetics. I mean, there are areas which I personally do not like, do not do not like to go too much into. The genetics is one. I haven't seen the kind of, I'm
yeah,
still kind of into the area and seeing whether that is harmful or that is useful for human being. So I don't want to put my opinion there. But from the point of view of technologies, lasers, and even in cancer treatment, that day I was listening to Vas Narasimhan. He's the global CEO of Novartis, and he talked about one of the technology which would go and target the cancer areas. So those are the
right,
technology which we need for the humans to survive for longer, and that is happening. But again, those areas, most of those areas are areas where you and I, like, unless you've got some kind of funding, it becomes harder to kind of go into. But the advancement is really welcome. I mean, there is a big advantage on them as well.
right, right. uh
One of the book which I would recommend, sorry, Pradeep, one of the book, if somebody wants to look at a book from, if they're working as well and if they wanted to create like a side hustle or create an entrepreneurship, there's a really good book called, um, the book's name is, in fact, not the side hustle, but actually the gig economy. The gig
right,
economy. That's a
okay,
book which is really good book which talks about that aspect.
right, thank
People
you.
could do people could do a few things. Let's say if I'm a practitioner,
Yes,
small business, self-employed practitioner, but let's say if I save 2 hours in a week to teach in university, probably I would just create some fixed cost paid through that,
right,
right? I just have to save my time. So
yeah, sure. We have, one question which is not very specific to your topic, and I think I know who may be the best person to answer that for Archana. She has asked. So, what I would request Archana that please wait for someone to connect. We will privately connect with Archana and answer her query, which is related to the opportunities on ESG and B or SR opportunities in India, which I think some of the experts in India can guide her on that. And now we thank you for your time, and it's already too late. I think 12 past 30 in Melbourne, or more than that.
midnight.
Yeah, so midnight, right? So we thank you from the committee, from our chairman, on behalf of our committee chairman, C. Hansrachuk, vice chairman, C. Dheeraj Khandelwal, Secretary of the committee, Madam CA Anita Suneja, Vikas, all the team members who had been working on this program. Today we are on the last day. So thank you on behalf of everyone. And we look forward to see you some other time soon. And well, we wish you a good sleep now. Thank you. Thanks, Rajneesh.
Thanks, Pradeep, and yeah, much appreciated. And you're doing a great job.
Thank you. Thank you. So Rajneesh will take leave, and we move on to our second session, wherein we have C. Anand Chanki, a very dear friend who is very well known amongst Indian members. All everyone in India knows him, and also in different parts of the world, as he has been a speaker at so many platforms. Within ICI and also on the other organizations side. So I'll briefly introduce Anand. He is a passionate evangelist for tech-based disruption in audit and finance domain. Anand is professionally a chartered accountant and a certified information system auditor. He is a managing partner at AJA, an organization with focus in the area of forensic audit, IS audit, fraud analytics, and blockchain for internal audit function. Anand was part of the risk management team at Goldman Sachs, covering multiple audits across much geography for different function in the organization. Prior to Goldman Sachs, he was with the ES Consulting Group at Infosys Technologies Limited, Bangalore. He is visiting faculty for IIM Bangalore, teaching IS audit and fraud analytics. He is on the committee of IRDA for cybersecurity audit. He has been a key contributor to forensic accounting and investigation standards, FAIS, issued by our institute. He is a speaker at North America CACS and Euro CACS of ISACA. Thank you so much. Thank you, Anand, for being here with us. Thank you for agreeing to become part of this entrepreneurial week. And you will be talking about a topic, technology, which is most important. And I think as it is most important, fortunately, it is happening in the last, because there are sometimes some things we forget. The things which are said in the last we remember. So I request everyone present here to please give a big virtual round of applause for Anand, who has been supporting in students so many initiatives. So Anand, the screen is yours. Thank you.
Thanks. So sweet of you. Actually, Pradeep is a great friend, and I missed my meeting him this time when I was in Dubai. But I look forward to having the pearls of wisdom, because whenever I meet him, I learn something new, and it's always a pleasure to be here. So great. It's a Thursday evening, and I know people have joined from multiple places, and I thought without much ado, I'll just dive into the topic. But today, when I was actually, I was asked to talk about this because being an entrepreneur myself, have been working in this domain, and as probably rightly said, I work for AJ, and we do basically work on some of the interesting disruptive technologies which are there, and we do a lot of experimenting on that. It's something very interesting, to share our thoughts, and I see like there are a lot of opportunities which are there, and to be very honest with you on this point, there are huge opportunities which are coming in the last 3 to 4 years, which I am sure all of you are actually noticing it up. And that is like something which is we call as a cross breed on finance and tech, because that's the area which is, fintech has been a big word, buzzword all across thing, but it was more on the payment side and all the thing. But across the world, there are a lot of things which are there. So today, as I thought what I'm going to talk about, I will start with the basic, some of the examples, or we call it the check-in examples, which are there, trying to inculcate a kind of, I would say, excitement which you can be seeing it up in terms of what's happening around us, and trying to give you some of the, I would say, there are some very interesting thought leaders who have actually worked in this domain, and I think we should learn from them in terms of how we can actually, I would say, use the commercialization part of technology, because entrepreneurship is all about commercialization of an idea, and that's how we can actually do that. And that's something which I would like to talk about. And feel free to interrupt me at any point of time, guys. I have some slides, but I don't want to be like too much of bound by the slides. I will be going between multiple places in terms of some examples, demo, and all that kind of thing. And then we'll be talking about that. So that's my topic for today. As you can see, it's technology, entrepreneurship, and commercialization. Now, I'll be talking more from the perspective of finance and the fintech area because that's one of the area which is friends becomes a kind of a kind of crossbreed or I think crossbreeding of ideas in this domain because finance by default has always been what we call as the conservative part. We are always has been we were taught conservatism at one point of time, and that's something which actually we carry that as one of our key attribute for a very long time. But now is the time we need to actually understand the changes which are happening across us. I will be talking about some of the fundamental reason for these changes. But before that, I just want to ask some of you guys, how many of you have been playing around with the chat GPT? That's a kind of big buzzword everywhere. So in the chat, if you can let me know, any one of you are actually playing with that. I have been for last, and because I actually teach at IIM Bangalore, I do have an academic, ID, and I get access to Chat GPT, the research, thing, and I've been playing around with that for last, you can say 30, 40 days, and it's amazing. And the point which I'm trying to say, what is amazing, is people are not understanding the impacts what these things is going to bring it out there. So is it the chat disabled? Like I think no one can message or something.
Yeah, Anand, actually, all our members and guests who are viewing, they are viewing on the live portal.
Oh, okay.
Right?
Sorry. Okay.
No. So you can always ask a question. I'm keeping a track of it,
Okay,
and
please.
if there are any responses, I will.
Thanks for thank you.
Yeah. As of now, we have got 8 responses where members have said no. I didn't had anyone who said yes. If any yes comes in, I'll let you know.
So then, guys, I will have to tell you because yesterday I was talking to one of our senior team member, and I said, we need to just fire most of our engineers, and he said, yeah, not all of them, but yeah, max of the low end engineers in our organization, we need to fire them. I said, and the reason why he told me something, I'll just try to give you a quick thing on this, and this is just an abbreviation on. It's not the actual Chat GPT thing. I'm just trying to show you a kind of place where they're using the API. Now, I'm sure all of you have heard about this concept of Chat GPT, which is basically a generative AI. Okay, so I just want to, let's say, write a Python code for mass mailing. Yeah. Now, I hope you can see this thing. Do you just see that it's actually giving me the complete examples of a mass mail code? Basically, if I want to spam all of you guys, I have the code ready out here in Python. I can actually just say, if you want, I can just put it Java or, you name it. It can actually do a lot of things. I am pretty excited more on the technology side of that. It's still learning. So yeah, that Java part is, so it will have this kind of, little goof up, but on the Python side, it's pretty interesting. So what I'm trying to say is,
yeah, Anand, we got one response 4 minutes back. No, we receive. No, we have some of more responses. Ali Abbas, who is in Vadodara, he said that using Chat GPT almost daily for queries. And then we have Nikita from Kolkata. She says that, yes, I heard about ChatGPT in another CS seminar last month. It's amazing. And Mahinder from Bayandar, he says that Chat AI. I think he may be using something.
Same thing. Great.
Yeah.
Yes. What I just wanted to bring out here is this one set of technology, just a small thing, because there is a similar thing which is coming from DeepMind. This two set of technology has suddenly, created so much of I would say, buzz in the market. And if you guys are kind of a news buff like me, I would actually want to show you something which one of my friend told me, and I was not believing what he said, but then I just agreed to what he said. So you just go to news.google.com and search for this two news item. Okay, and this had happened in last few days. The first thing is you're hearing that 10,000 people being laid off. And the second one is this one, the investment they are doing it. Yeah. You can see this news of investment, which is they have done it of close to around $10 billion. They are doing it. They just gave this news around 9 days back. And we have a new news out here, which is actually talking about 10,000 job loss. Now, I know job losses are something which is a very, very, not a very good thing to discuss or anything as such, but you need to see the correlation between that. As chartered accountant, I think we need to understand one very important point, guys, that we have to learn from the history. And in history, there has been something which happened very, we all been talking about. We call it the law of change. And this is the most interesting thing about the law of change. They say change is the law of life, and those who look only at the past and the present are certain to miss the future. If actually we are very much focused on what were the laurels which we got in the past, and oh yeah, I did something great, and I'm a chartered accountant now, and I'm doing a great job that present, we are certainly to miss to the future, the future. And why I say that, and this is exactly the point which brings me to a kind of a very famous thing, and this is one of my example I give all the time because it's one of my favorite example of Luddites. So if you have heard about Luddites, and if you're not, I'm sure you can Google it up. Luddites were basically the protest group which used to operate in 1811 to 1816. These are the people who were actually against any kind of automation in the garment industry. So they used to go and riot, they used to destroy machinery because their point was that, oh, if machines comes, our job is going to go away. But for 5 years, they tried and they failed because even they destroyed the factories were rebuilt. It was more cheaper to do that. Why I'm trying to bring it out here is I know a lot of people would be fearing the loss of work and all the things which is going to happen because the advancement of IT which is happening. But as we all know, every challenge is an opportunity. There is something we call it as democratization of technology, which basically means earlier technology was in the hands of few, especially we call them, at that point of time, we used to call them engineers and all the thing. You need to have a kind of a specific skill set and all the thing, only then you can do it. But of late, technology is now in the hands of everyone. Even for people, I know a lot of chartered accountants don't like technology, and the primary reason for that is the paper ISKA, or one of the paper which many of the people flunk a lot. But that paper should not be corrected with technology. That was a paper which was there from a perspective of that. But we need to understand that there has been a lot of water has flown down the river in after that things which has happened. We have to grab this opportunity which is happening out here. And there are a lot of changes which is happening. You need to if you see, again, I'm a big history buff, and I was listening to one of the point gig economy when Rishit, we was our past speaker was talking about that. Books are that's something very interesting. A lot of people say, what is to learn from history? You need to learn from history because history repeats itself. And in terms of history, we need to also understand what has happened to many of the industries which has actually not have risen to take benefit of the opportunity which has happened. And what we see about them is they are all become history. So the thing which we need to understand from all of these things are, around us today we live in a world, and actually I'm sure all of you have heard about this fourth industrial revolution. Even we have World Economic Forum going on. There is a big, I'm not sure if you're following it very closely. I'm very closely following that. And there is actually a kind of a full track which is going on the fourth industrial revolution at World Economic Forum. And if you track that, what the track, you will actually be surprised with the new kind of business opportunities which are coming up, and that which we can actually leverage in terms of what we are doing it out there. And I just assume if it is not there, I'll just take 2 minutes to explain you the fourth industrial revolution, because you should all go back to World Economic Forum sites. It's on YouTube, everything, whatever the information, all the sessions which are happening, very interesting points which are there. But this point of Luddites, that's a kind of a learning that we should not be Luddites, and let's not try to be in a kind of a situation where we think, oh, this jobs are going away, so this technology is bad and all the thing. They are going to be there. Technology is not going to be. Once we upgrade, we never downgrade on that. So this is something which is going to be there, and that's something which we should learn. Second point which I want to talk about is on this concept of fintech. And when we say this concept of fintech, I know in India, fintech is largely talked about from only from a payment bank and all thing, but it's a bigger thing. It's an amalgamation of this whole concept of finance and technology which comes together, and we try to see how we can actually leverage this technology in multiple areas. You'll be surprised, that we have been I've been working with a lot of clients out there who would be coming in conferences and talking, oh, we do this, we do that. But when you go back and check for them, they are actually using still Excel and all things. So the point is that there are multiple reasons why people are not able to adapt to the new solutions which are there, but it's all there, and it's just waiting for us to get discovered and being used out there. And the second term, which comes very quickly along with fintech, is the term of transformation or disruption. And when we use the word digital transformation, guys, here you need to understand we are talking about technology which can radically improve performance or the reach of the business. Now, here the word which is very important, guys, is radically. This radical word becomes the most important word to understand and appreciate, because when we say radical, it will not be 5 to 10% improvement. We are talking about an improvement to the level of 50 to 60% in how the process is being done, how it is being managed, and taking it forward. Imagine if I'm actually doing 7 days in closing my books of account, I should be able to do it in 7 hours. That would be something we can say radical improvement of performance, and that's something where digital transformation comes up. And one of the most interesting thing I will tell you, which I was just telling you, and I have been noticing a lot in our finance professional, and this is exactly what MIT Sloan and Capgemini found. They found 90% of the CEO believe in this digital economy will impact them. They all know, yeah, this is coming, this is there. But less than 15% are even, actually executing on the digital strategy. They're all, most of the, 90%, so only 15% of that, which means close to around, you can say, 75% of the folks are just talking about that. They know it is going to come and hit up, but they're not actually taking any kind of initiative or anything of that. So this gap is a great opportunity, which basically means there are still people we call, I would say, you if you go into this area, you can call yourself as a purple people. That's a name given for people who are functionally on finance and other things very strong, and on technology also they are very strong. This is like kind of a crossbreed, so they are known as the purple people. So you can be proudly say yourself as a purple people in case you move into that. And one of the point which I mentioned at the beginning, because that's important before we go into some of the areas which you can exploit, because there's some area I will talk about, and also share some of my learning. So before we do that, we need to actually see the genesis of all this digital disruption. If you understand the genesis of this digital disruption, you would be in a better position to leverage or understand it better and see what are the things we can get out of that. So the point which I wanted to bring out here is the very important concept at the macro level. What are the things which are happening? So you can see in finance, they are using AI for detecting of frauds, because humans can detect it, but machines can do it better. You are all seeing, I'm sure all of you have seen this NLP, natural language processing, where voice and text processing is moving into that kind of thing. We have been using APIs, which is, already the interfaces which are built on applications, and those things are moving in a right way. But these macro levels are actually driven by the genesis of fourth industrial revolution. And if you go to the site of World Economic Forum today and see all the, I would say, sessions which are happening right now in Davos, you will notice one very interesting trend, that there have been a kind of, somehow directly or indirectly, in every session they have actually integrated the industry 4.0 topic, and they are trying to basically I would say they are becoming the evangelist for industry 4.0. And for anyone who is not aware of that, I'll just quickly give you a kind of a brief on this. We all know industry 1 was basically in 1800, so which was basically more of a mechanizations and steam engine which were used, or steam power was used in all the kind of I would say development. And then we moved to industry 2.0, which was more of assembly line, electrical energy. I'm sure this was the peak which came in 1930s. And many of you would have seen this movie, the Charlie Chaplin has a very famous movie called the, if I'm not wrong, it was shit, movie forgetting. It came in Modern Times. Yeah, that was the name of the movie, the Modern Times, and it was a very interesting movie. That was a movie which actually showed at that point of time the kind of mass productions which was happening, the concept of assembly line and all thing. And that was the peak at the 1930s of what we call Industry 2.0. Industry 3.0, I'm sure all of you have experienced it on automation, computers, and all things. But from 2015, our friends at World Economic Forum, they said that we are entering in a kind of a world of cyber physical systems, Internet of Things, network, big data analytics, and smart manufacturing. Now, what is a cyber physical system? Now, it's very interesting to understand that because think of a Tesla car. Is it a car or a computer? Actually, it's a both. It's actually a car if you see it from outside with the tires and steering wheel, and there is a motor, there is electricity part and all that kind of thing. But it has the self-driving feature, autonomous car, autonomous vehicle. It has a lot of radars and other things which are there, Doppler radars and everything, and it makes the system to do decision making in a fraction of seconds. Now that's kind of example of a cyber physical system. Now you can see this. That is the kind of a machine and computer interface. We are also talking about I would say computers and human interface. If you have heard about the Neuralink, video of the monkey, which was their Elon Musk company, you would be shocked about that because I would never do that. They had a waiting list. People they asked that people will be registered implanted today. In just than 30 people be registered there on this site. So there are people who are ready to do that. And I don't know cyborg or anything what we used to see in the movie, but it's coming in front of us that people are ready to actually implant it and be ready for that. So interesting area, interesting thought process and all things. But interface is something which is very interesting because so we see these sensors everywhere right now. We are seeing these sensors in cars. We are seeing these sensors in air conditioner, in washing machine. You name it up, and they're connecting and then generating a huge amount of data. We have big data analytics. We have smart manufacturing. All these things are something which they say about that. And if you go in the word of World Economic Forum, they have actually published this book, The Fourth Industrial Revolution. Klaus Schwab made a very interesting statement. He said, technologically, the way we are going to work, live, and relate is going to change drastically. And most importantly, the scale, scope, and complexity of this is not going to be anything unlike what humankind has experienced before. And that's something which is coming our way. Chat GPT, people are not fools to get so excited about that because this is not something humans in a generative AI have never ever experienced earlier. So this is going to be very interesting, and it's already whatever these people have predicted is already coming true as we see right now, and that actually opens up doors for new opportunities to see. Think of that in future. Maybe I give a financials, and the analysis of that financials instead of human, a chat GPT can do it better. Maybe yeah, it's something to be scared of, but on the other side you can focus on something better than just trying to do a ledger reviews and all that kind of thing. I'm just thinking it loud, guys. Now, this point is something which has already come across. You see the disruption happening in every part. This is the disruption which was caused by, all heard about this one technology called algo trading. Algorithmic trading led to, in the Wall Street, you had a lot of people traders required, because if I have to give a big, chunk of order, let's say I want to buy 50,000, or not 50,000, 5 lakhs or 1 million shares of Verizon, I can't give one order. If I give one order, the prices are going to shoot up like anything. So instead of a block order, I would be actually making a small orders of multiple, you know, uh, trenches, and that is something which is going to do that. You required a lot of people. But the moment algo trading came, you don't require those many people. So this is a disruption which is happening across us. And you can see the speed at which the scale, the term scale, which is mentioned by Klaus Schwab, is a very important one, because we all know this term, where telephone took 75 years to get 100 million customers, whereas Pokemon Go got 1 month, they got 100 million customers. Do you see the speed at which things are changing? And today the speed, ChatGPT user base has already reached more than 8 million. This is like user base right now. When they're in beta, they are not even actually open it up for everyone. They are just giving APIs and all the thing. You don't know how fast they will going to do that. So the point which I'm trying to bring out here is the speed and scale and others. This is something which is, interesting. People are really excited about that, because they know that this is something which is changing the way we look at that. Okay, let me. I think I was not able to share the screen. Yeah, you can see the screen right now. There was some issue. So I was talking about these two things. Okay, so I was talking about this statement by Klaus Schwab, and I want to highlight 2 points here, guys. One is scale, scope, and the third point is complexity. This is the things which we need to understand, that in future, scale is going to be important. Scope of what we are trying to change or what impact we are bringing is going to be important, and the complexities at which these things are going to work are going to be important. So, without much ado, let me just go into. So, this is the disruption I was talking about, algo thing, and this was my last slide, which I was discussing on terms of how the speed at which adoption of new technology is happening has changed drastically. Now, here we need to take a pause, because we need to see what are the themes which are coming out here. What are the emerging themes? And friends, this emerging things which I'm talking about are those themes, each of which has a great potential to create a, I would say, a big impact on the way the traditional finance is working. And on the same side, it has a great potential to give new areas of, I would say, services which as a finance professional we can work on. See, you need to understand. I always been, when I actually started out, one of the question which my mentor used to ask is, what is more important, the ideas or the problem? And usually, initially, I used to think ideas are important, but that is, ideas are worth or dime a dozen. There are a lot of ideas comes up. We need to focus on the problem statement. What is the problem which is there? It can be a problem of, not getting the right information at the right time. It can be on the area of speed. It can be on the cost. It can be multiple problem statement which is there. We need to think of what are the problems we are trying to solve it up. What we are going to see as the emerging themes are going to be the enablers to solve this problem. I hope you understood that point, because I'm not very sure if you guys are good or any a big fan of Mr. Clayton, but I hope you get a chance to listen to this gentleman Clayton. And if you are in a entrepreneurship, he is like kind of what we call as the god, because he has spoken at Google, he has spoken at multiple places. And Mr. Clayton, he, oh my gosh. So the jobs to be done, the theory of jobs to be done by Glenn Christensen, you should be reading about this because this is the theory which will give you a kind of a clarity in terms of what is the problem statement and why, how we can solve it up. What I am going to talk about today are some of the themes which are there, which are very interesting themes, which are presently there, which can be leveraged in solutionizing or in terms of using those things to solve the problems. Okay. So, what are the themes which are there? Now, we'll start with the first one, IoTs. IoTs is nothing but, if I have to actually use a very crude word, they are sensors. See, we require sensors in every part of thing. We require sensors in washing machine to know when the washing machine was started, when it ended. That is all at the consumer level, which is there. But think of what are the sensors being used in businesses. There was a time when I was a young chartered accountant working for a organization, a conglomerate, which was into manufacturing, where we used to always have a big problem understanding what is our work in progress products. How much is our work in progress? Because you can't stop the factory on 30th March and just then do a kind of thing. The business will keep on going. You have to go with an estimate. And if any one of you have dealt with manufacturing, all thing, they have all this huge silos in which raw materials are kept. You have multiple things. All the products will be in the different stage of that. You will go with an estimate that is there. But of late, what is happening is we used to have earlier something called as SCADA computers. SCADA computers were industrial class computers, which were not so easy to use it up. But today, you have this whole concept of IoTs, Internet of Things, which basically adds a lot of value in terms of information which you can actually use. It can be when this machines has to be sent for preventive maintenance, to how much production was done, what is the performance, you name it up. Because one thing which has not changed in finance or in the solutioning of business is, in God we trust, for everything else we want data, and that data or the right set of data, IoTs can generate it for you, because these are very small machines and they can actually keep on communicating and bringing it up there. Now, that is one of the very interesting theme which we should all know about. The second theme which I want to talk about and I'm very excited about, and I'm trying to keep it in two boxes: automation and AI. Why I'm keeping it in two boxes? Automation is not a intelligent automation. It's just like I'm doing a job. I just wanted to just make it automated. A very crude example which I can give you, friends, is on macros. If you've seen in Excel, we record a macro. Imagine, instead of recording the macro in Excel, what if I can have the whole machine do the task which I have recorded, and it's like a robotic process automation or anything which I can actually deal with that. Now, that's something is the automation part which comes into picture. Now, automation may not be sustainable for a very long time, but having said that, this is something which has a good potential even now, because till the next 3 to 5 years there are still organizations which has not done even basic automations. So those are the things which will be requiring it up there. So that's one area we should be looking at it. The next enabler is, I'm using the word AI because I used to earlier always put a term machine learning, but now I have actually rechanged it to the AI, because after seeing the power of ChatGPT and all thing, I think we need to see the generative AI part also. The reason being, there in when we say artificial intelligence, it is, if you have to just say very crudely, it is nothing but when you are actually interacting with a machine and you are not able to differentiate whether you're interacting with a machine or not. That was the one of the tests for artificial intelligence, and of late it has already passed that, and we are seeing a lot of use cases on that. It can be in natural language processing. It can be in other areas like I'm sure you're using Google Lens. You see those pictures, you translate it up, they search for you, all that kind of things are happening. On the visual, on the vision side, AI is being used. But what I am more excited about right now is two areas which can has a big potential. in the area of, I would say, business. The first one is machine learning, and second one is generative AI. Machine learning is a very interesting concept, because if I have to very easy way explain it to you, imagine if you actually write a, you record a macro in Excel. Someone writes the code in Visual Basic, right? In Visual Basic, someone will write the code. Who writes the code? The code is written by something called as case, computer assisted software engineering, right? Imagine the same thing happening in machine learning, where instead of, I'm sure a lot of you would have done programming in your school days or college days. We used to always being told that, oh, first think of the logic, then connect the database, and then you get the result. Think of changing this order itself. The order is now you give the data, it will derive the logic, and it will give you the output. Now, this is like completely a different way altogether looking at that. But it is possible. And this is possible because of late, in the domain of, I would say, case, computer assisted software engineering, there has been a lot of advancement which has happened. And that allows us to basically have a kind of feature extraction from any data set, because humans can see data only from maximum 2 to 3 dimension, but machines can see there's an n dimension, and that's something which brings it out there. The third one, which is an emerging theme and which still has emerged, but in the finance domain, cloud. I am sure all of you have heard this term. uh, the whole point is, uh, cloud computing, if you have to say, it is nothing but, imagine a situation. If I have to just give an example, do you own the electricity company, or you pay for what you use? Pay for what you use. So it's an OPEX model of whatever services I'm using, I am paying for that. Now, what happens is, here in this model, again, we have a very interesting thing. Can we do the same thing? Because I remember there was a time when there were all these high-end machines and high-end softwares which requires a lot of cost and a lot of time and effort to be deal with that. Today on a cloud, I get a fraction of ownership of that, and I can use it up. Now that means we can provide a lot of services to clients and everyone if it is actually given through cloud. Yes, there are some issues people are talking about on data side and all things, but if you can think of one very interesting thing, if NASA can be on a cloud, if we have right now NSA, which is United States, the NSA is on a cloud. I think it's a kind of a misnomer if say, oh, on cloud the data is not safe. So my point, which is there, is we need to understand this one from the overall approach of learning. What are the areas which we need to leverage out there? The third one is a very interesting area, which I would say all of you can actually look into and leverage, is analytics. And I'm using the word analytics in a very, very, I'm not using the word data science, data analytics, anything as such. I'm using the word analytics. What is the most important skill set a chartered accountant or a finance professional like us have? I would say it is not anything else apart from knowledge of the business. And if people like us provide services to the client in the domain of analytics, which is adding value, getting insight to them. And when I say insight, I would be very upfront. I mean this from the perspective of these three things. We are talking about the hindsight, the insight, and the foresight, because this is something which is very important. In hindsight, what actually happened, and in insight, where the problem is, what actions are needed, and why it is happening. And foresight, which we are trying to see more from an external perspective of what in future, what if this trend continues? What will happen next? And what is the best that can happen? If I have to actually try to do a Monte Carlo simulation from a risk management perspective, I can actually see a foresight out there. So the point which I'm trying to bring out here, guys, is analytics can actually help us answer a lot of questions, a lot of areas, and also provide, I would say, insights to the client. See, till now, what was happening was, this is something, a very important things which you should understand. See, in the olden days, there were only very few people used to have the knowledge of reading and writing. Why? Because they were the high priest in, especially in the Roman empires and all things. Only the high priest knew how to read and write. Rest of the people not have to do that. The reason was very simple. They were the people who are going to deal with all the, nitty gritties and all things. So only the high priest should know how to read and write, and they were given special treatment. But of late, literacy became common all across. When literacy is all across the places, what happens? Everyone has access to the same set of books, same set of knowledge, and they can actually interpret in the same way. Now, what was happening is 10 years back, analytics and machine learning, AI, all these things, what you're seeing in front of you, all these areas were built for the high offices, or when I say for the high priest, which means imagine this analytics and AI would be used by companies like Amazon at a very large scale, and they would actually be able to I can say add some value for themselves, saying that okay, we are giving you a customized view to every person who's logging in. And you have seen that in Amazon also, that it will say people who bought this also bought that. So they try to get this kind of connections coming up, right? That happen out there. Now imagine if in, let's say for example, I was in Ahmedabad, yesterday, and there is a kind of a chain of pizza, thing, La Pina. I can't even pronounce it up, but it was very nice pizzas. I had it yesterday. Now that chain has something around 20-30 outlets all across Gujarat. Okay. If they want to use analytics and AI out there, today, I would say 10, 6, 7 years back, it was not feasible for them. Imagine where they can predict that, okay, on Friday, how much sale they can do based on the past data, and whether they should make more of 5 cheese pizza or 7 cheese pizza. I'm just giving example out there. This was the menu they had. But those kind of things are really interesting, I would say, use of the knowledge of a finance professional, which we can actually put to the client and say, I can add value for you, and take it up there. So think of this, that you're trying to bring this technology from the high priest to the common people. Everyone has the literacy, everyone has the knowledge of that. Okay. The next one is one of very close to my heart, is on blockchain. And I don't want to go into blockchain because we have paucity of time, and I'd like to have last 10 minutes for question and answer. But on the blockchain side, guys, what happens is, this is the area, if you see fundamentally, one of the key problem with the analytic system of bookkeeping is reconciliation, because there is no single source of truth. There are multiple sources of truth. In the books of X, this is the entry. In the books of Y, this is the entry. Blockchain, though it has hundreds of use cases which are there, from a finance and accounting perspective, you can think of this as something which is trying to bring a single source of truth, which basically means there is neither your books is correct, neither more. You have a triple entry system of bookkeeping. And when we talk about blockchain, people try to take it as cryptocurrency and all thing. I would say differentiate between that. Cryptocurrency, already there are a lot of issues which are happening, so we'll not go into that. But blockchain use cases are there, and off late there are entities which has come as blockchain as a services, just like a SaaS model, where you can use the blockchain, which will be a database already ready made with everything. You can just try to say, this is the solution, I would like to put it up there and take that forward. Okay. So blockchain has hundreds of use cases which are there right now, and they're waiting for us to be explored. And if we can actually explore and get the things out, I would say there can be nothing else, which we can do that. You can actually exploit this opportunity to the core. Uh, the next two is something which is very interesting again. Starting from process mining. What is this process mining? It's actually was earlier taken as a kind of a subset of analytics, but over a period of time, it has developed so much that it's actually become a separate area altogether. See, what happens is, think of from a perspective in an organization, everyone's saying, oh, we have this SOP, this is the process we follow and all thing. Most of the people know that they are not following the SOPs. Now, the question arises, how do I prove that it has not been done? Now, there is where we require um, what we call it as process mining. Process mining is nothing but, you know, data don't lie. those transactions would have happened in your system at different point of time. So there are timestamp which is there, because every transaction which happen in a database, there is a timestamp which will be generated that this transaction happened at this point of time. What you try to do is you take all this transaction in order, and by the timestamp you try to see, are they really following the SOP which has been defined? So we call that as happy path is there, and whether it has been used, properly, has been managed properly and taken forward. And last but not least, a kind of a mix of that, we call this as kinetic finance. This term has come in a recent time because they wanted to say finance earlier used to be a silo function, or we used to call it the backend. Or I remember there's another term for that called BEF, business enabler function. But of late, there have been a kind of a thought process that yes, finance can be one of the hub, or decision hub, deciding on what we are doing, our strategy implementation, the way it is being run, and trying to give insights, I'm using the word again, from multiple sources and bringing it out for the management to take the right decisions and decide on that. Because if we are not doing it, if the business, the finance function is not kinetic enough, your other organization will be moving at a different thing and all thing. You're seeing this case which has happened recently, Go Mechanic, Byju's, and all the thing, the newses which are coming. Somewhere, what we saw, the aggressiveness of the startups have actually somewhere, brought down the other part. And this is the kind of thing, if you take the history of some of the big corporate failure, let it be WorldCom, Enron, and all things, ultimately the things which went wrong were starting from finance. That was one of the core function which was taken as, oh, this is not something which we are going to look into, but that led to a lot of changes and a lot of challenges out there. So friends, this is some of the emerging fields which are there, or themes which are there, which actually brings up on the, the way things are moving. So, when I started the topic, I told you something, that technology, entrepreneurship, and commercialization. Now, when I have to talk about technology, entrepreneurship, and commercialization, I would say these are some of the themes which all of you can go back and try to see how you can actually leverage it up there. Now, coming to how we can actually do this commercialization. Now, for that, there are two very important things which we need to think of. The first and foremost is having a transformational mindset. When I say transformational mindset, these terms become very important because of two reasons. There has been a very interesting survey by people. They said learning is a great art, but you should also know something which we call as unlearning or relearning. Now, that is an area which will require a transformational mindset. Now, how many of you here have tried to do this practice, tried this sometime? Whatever you're doing it in XYZ manner, try to do that in a some other manner or something else. Say that, okay, let me try to do this in a completely different way. 90% of the time, you will say, no, no, what I was doing was the right way, and you will just stuck to that. That means you are not having the transformational mindset. You have to be having an experimental mindset. Go with the mindset that if you are going to do 20, if you want to go for technology commercialization and all thing, and I'm just sharing from my experience, we do you guys know there is something called as Google Graveyard? Have you heard about this term called Google Graveyard, guys? Any one of you? No? So search Google only, you can search Google Graveyard. You will find a host of app, products which were made. This is called Killed by Google. I'll just show you this one. I don't know how many of you know there are more than, like, if you try to see that, oh, these are the number of application which was made by Google. This is Killed by Google is a site where you can see all the different, I don't know, anyone has heard about this term called Google Stadia? This is cloud gaming services which was there. Okay, just 2 days back, it was recently only it was killed. This is Google Hangouts was killed, YouTube Go was killed, Google Survey was killed. So many applications they have made. Okay, now why is this graveyard I'm sorry, I think I have not shared my screen. Oh, I'm sorry. Can you see the screen now? This is what we call as a Google graveyard. Okay, more than 280 of their products are there, which they have actually killed. And I remember using this Google Currents. Okay, it was a social media thing which they wanted to take on Facebook and all thing. And Google is a great company. They are not fools. Okay, but they know when, this is what happens as entrepreneur. Many times we are very very what will attach to an idea. We just go with that ideas. But you should know when to let it go. Why it is important to let it go? There is a reason for that. The reason is very simple. Many things you will try, and it is not that you should not try. You should try. If you fail, it is okay. There would be something which will come out as success. The experimental mindset is very important, which think is the critical thing. In our organization, we have more than 30 to 50 POCs which we have done, which it was of no use. It just went to toss. It was just a waste of our effort. But we don't think that as a waste of our effort, because it was a learning for our team. It was learning that, okay, what are the things which are going to work? What are the things which are not going to work? So that mindset is something very important if you want to go for technology entrepreneurship and commercialization. Without that, nothing is going to work, guys. So this becomes a very very important thing. Second thing which again become important here is how we can move the business to X. And here this X is something not defined. You can see businesses today moving at a speed which we cannot even think of 10 years back. There are a lot of organizations which are able to survive, a lot of organizations which will not be there anymore. It's going to be interesting altogether. Now, where do we stand in this overall thing? Moving the business to the X is the critical part, which basically means we have to keep ourselves in the shoes of the business and think of what we can do for them. What is the problem statement we can solve? How we can actually accelerate it up? Yes, there is going to be, you have to play the role of evangelist. You have to play the role of someone who is trying to change the way things are moving. But all that things becomes critical, because without any of that thing happening, we cannot deal with that. So, guys, that's something which I wanted to share with you, as I have 1 hour time, and explain to you that the changes, the technology commercialization, and use case creation, whatever we do, you require to have a approach which is holistic, which takes into mind a transformational mindset, which takes into mind an experimental mindset, and then so that's from my side. Thank you very much for the patience hearing, and feel free any questions which you may have. I will be more than happy to take the questions. I just thought I will take 10 minutes, but I think only I have 5 minutes of questions. But more than happy to take any of the questions.
Thank you so much, Anand. We do not have any question as of now, but I would request all our members who want to ask some questions can ask. We had a comment from Mahindra earlier, which I'm reading. He says that earlier technology was in the hands of a few, but it's in the hands of new. He has written that.
It's true. It's true now. As I told you, that's the example I was giving. That earlier it was, the high priest in Roman temples only used to know how to read and write, because there are the people who knew access to that. But today it is like available to everyone. I go to one site very regularly. Is actually called Swayam, and I was not aware of this site. I came to know from my colleagues at IIM Bangalore. Because it's government of India has asked all the IIM and IITs professors to actually record 50 hours of content every year, new content on this site. And there are like so many different ideas coming up, so many different like imagine you listen to one IIT professor talking about quantum physics, and then listen to someone who's talking about finance, and there are connection between them. So there are literally, as rightly said, everyone has access to the same amount of knowledge and technology also. So it's on us what we do for that. So it's like there's like a term we call it in Infosys. There was a gentleman called Thomas L. Friedman who wrote a book, The World is Flat. And Infosys took that as their tagline: "The world is flat" for some point of time. So that's the kind of thing. It's a flat world today. How you want to leverage this knowledge, technology, everything is on us to basically work it out.
Yeah. So, Anand, you had talked about Google Graveyard, and I was also reading something similar where when it comes to success and failure, where we talk
Mhm.
about, okay, the products which are successful, we all know, we all remember, but there may be many times the products which didn't work out as they might have thought. So that's why it is dumped into the graveyard, as we were discussing. So, one point which I want to ask and make, is that when these large organizations like Google or Facebook, they would be acquiring organizations, they would be
Mhm.
acquiring products, and they would be acquiring products to kill them also, so that the one which are there for them,
That's right.
they survive, they succeed. So if we talk about the products which are in Google graveyard, and we have to divide them into two categories: the one which
Yeah.
Google had made and were not
Mhm.
successful, and one which they may have acquired and then
Required.
they dumped. So how much would be the percentage, you you
So
think?
that's a very good question. Actually, you're perfectly right. There are a few of the products which are there, which belong to some companies which are there. Like for example, we all know Android was not a Google product. It was like
Right.
the source was taken, or YouTube was actually bought off by them.
Yeah.
If you see the number in that, I would say it is around 70-30. 30% of them
Mm.
are basically acquired and killed, but
Right.
70% of them are their own products. So
Right.
it's a very interesting one because I don't know if you've heard about Google Current and Google Stream. These are two apps I actually extensively used when they were launched.
Okay.
And I saw that they were actually they wanted to compete with a lot of the social media companies and all things, but
Right.
they failed miserably. But I think what I like about Google point is that they're not very attached to the idea. They're attached
Mm.
to solving problem. Many times what happens is it used to happen with me also. I
Right.
come across one idea and I'll get myself very attached to that idea. Oh, this idea is like rock star idea. I should actually focus on that. But I need to think of what problem am I solving it for that. If I'm not solving a problem for anyone, then that idea is useless, actually, I would say. So
Right.
that's the point which we have to think of there.
Mm. I remember when I came here, in 2007, Orkut, I think, was Google product, if I'm
Oh,
not
yeah.
wrong. Right.
Yes,
So
Orkut.
2000, and Orkut was banned here in UAE, and I
Uh-huh.
used to get access in the area I'm sitting, like in Dubai Internet City. I used to get access because here it was free. Otherwise, so then when Orkut was not accessible, I made a Facebook account, and that Facebook has survived. Orkut is not there since, I think,
I
many
think many of the
years.
people don't know about Orkut also, I think.
Yeah, maybe many must be young members here must not
Yeah,
be knowing.
they have not heard about that. No, but actually, Prabhadeep, I'll tell you something very interesting. I'm actually recently I was, there is a gentleman called Sumantra Ghoshal. He's Professor Sumantra Ghoshal of ISB. He was the gentleman who set up ISB. He's passed away. And one of my friends sent me a very interesting video clip of his talking at World Economic Forum, and it was like a dedication to him, which was done at World Economic Forum. So I actually read that clip, and it's there on YouTube now. You can actually see that. It's called "Smell of the Place." I would say, anyone who is wanting to become a tech entrepreneur should visit that. The thing. It's a very blurred video, very old, maybe something around 2004 or A65 at that time. But that video actually talks about many things of creating a culture also. That's very important in an organization, because see, I'll tell you, I may go in my organization, says, okay, let's break things, let's do this. It's not going to happen. It has to be a collective team effort and all things. You have to build up a team which works like that. And what I want to tell you is, this is something which I learned early when I used to do my international travel. Whenever I used to do international travel, I used to compare everything into INR, like
Right.
USD to INR.
Yeah,
जो
yeah.
भी खर्चा करने से पहले I used to think that in
True,
my
true.
mind.
Yeah.
And I learned one thing very hard way that you should not do that, because you
Hmm.
are in a different country, different environment already. If you
Right.
want to go into technology innovations, and if you want to go into a product company or give any services like that, you have to think like a technologist, not a finance guy. That's something which I learned over a period of time. It was a learning, and I'm just sharing with everyone. But that's a
Right.
learning which is an important learning for all of us, because tech is a very fast, is agile and everything, and there are a lot of opportunities. And as someone rightly mentioned, you quoted him. Today we have access to the same kind of information anyone else would do that, and we need to give ourselves one very interesting thing. Most of the engineers who are in IT are mostly, maybe they're not even computer science engineer, they're maybe electrical or mechanical engineer. They also come and learn it up there. If they
Right.
can learn it, why can't we do that? We as chat accountant, I would say we can do a better job out there. That's my submission, my 2 cents.
Thank
Thanks.
you. Thank you so much, Anand, leaving us with a very inspiring point. I'm sure everyone will take note of it, and whatever we can make it possible, that would be great. And on behalf of the committee chairman, C. Hansrachul, vice chairman, C. Dheeraj Khandelwal, our central council members, a deep gratitude to you, a deep
Thank you.
gratitude for taking out time and
Always a
never
pleasure.
refusing whenever asked for assistance. And this program, with the support of all members, all faculties, all central council members who came here, has been a great success. And thank you to everyone. So today we are signing off. From this 5 days journey we had of Entrepreneurial Week. And we wish everyone a great success in everything we are doing. Thank you. So
Thank you.
stay safe, everyone. Take care. Bye bye.
Bye. Thanks, Pradeep.